What's going on, everybody? I'm John at Pin Sports, and today I'm going to give my rankings for edge rushers in the first round. This year's draft class overall isn't the best, but the edge rusher class is stacked. I think at least 6 edge prospects will go in the first round. I threw in 2 extras that I could see going at the very end, so the first 2 prospects I talk about could very likely be second round picks. Now, I'm not going to go crazy in depth on each player, just going to give you guys an idea of why I think they're worthy of where I have them. My number 8 edge rusher is Boye Mafe. This is a guy that has been turning heads since the Senior Bowl. People are now starting to mock him in the front of the second, end of the first round, and the film is very interesting. You see flashes of high-end play. This is a guy who shows some serious speed and power on the field. I expect Mafe to blow up the combine. Mafe has all the tools to be a very good edge rusher. He just needs more experience. At this point, he's not the most instinctual player, but his hands are a serious weapon. Now, he needs to learn how to use them properly and more consistent, but when you see him use proper hand placement, he is a very dangerous man. His bull rush is no joke as well. Once this guy gets moving in a direction, it is a chore to slow him down. He also shows flashes of jabs and chops that make you think if he can improve on his timing and fundamentals, oh my god, I mean, he could be a high sack total kind of guy. If you're looking for a high ceiling, home run prospect later in the draft, Boye Mafe is as good as any other. Don't sleep on this guy, I'm telling you. My number 7 edge rusher is Myjai Sanders. Myjai is another player I view like Boye Mafe. You see great flashes, and when you think of the player he could be in a season or two, it really gets me excited. But Myjai has a very unorthodox style. He'll take angles and contort his body in ways you don't normally see in edge rusher. And surprisingly, it's effective. At the moment, he's undersized, but I expect him to fill out nicely and be a prototype outside linebacker in a 3-4. I love how Sanders can use stutter and swipe moves and jab steps, create openings on the inside and outside. I like his athleticism. He's a twitchy player. He's not the bendiest guy, but good enough to give you production. Myjai needs to improve in the run game to be an all-around edge. He's struggled containing the edge on run plays and has been susceptible to offsides penalties. I like his chances of developing into a very good player. He's definitely a guy to look out for. So on to the prospects that I'm sure will be first round picks. My number 6 edge rusher is Jermaine Johnson. Johnson is another guy who showed out in the Senior Bowl. He was dominant there. And I think he solidified himself as a first round pick in just the Senior Bowl. Johnson is a solid all-around edge. He has awesome arm length, which helps him in the run game. He shows a decent amount of pass rush moves on tape. He'll need to build more of a rapport of that in the NFL, but he's at a good place right now. Listen, this kid is a high-effort player. He is relentless. At the moment, he is a pure power rusher. I want to see him show some more finesse at moments, work on his fundamentals a bit more. I think if it all clicks for him, he could be a high-end run defender. And if he can add the pass rush moves and finesse, like I said previously, then I could see him developing into a big sack guy. I expect Jermaine to go somewhere in the middle of the first round, somewhere around that 14 to 18 area. Listen, he's just an aggressive, crazy player, and I love them type of guys. My number 5 edge rusher I chose is Trayvon Walker. He's a guy that kind of went under the radar. I've seen his name mentioned a lot more recently, but I love Walker's versatility. This is a guy who I think could be developed into just in a multitude of ways. Like, you can play him inside, outside. He's got an explosive first step. He doesn't carry his burst the best through his second and third steps, but his power and punch are just great equalizers. He keeps offensive linemen out of his body. His length also allows him to rush inside or outside. He's got some decent bend and a little bit of flexibility to grease the corner. He shows plenty of speed to power. If he stays as an edge rusher, I'd like him to slim down just a little bit and just chisel up. I want to see him show more speed on his get off. There's also a few mental things to work on. He's just very raw, and once he settles into one position, I expect big things. I think he'll be really good in the run game, and all the tools are there to just be a dangerous pass rusher. My number 4 edge rusher is George Karlaftis. He's a very similar player to Jermaine Johnson. A lot of people are overlooking Karlaftis, and there is some nonsense narratives out there. He definitely favors the inside moves, but he does have sneaky get off. He carries his speed and power off the line through contact. That's the most important thing to me. Now, people say he can't speed rush. That's just blatantly not true. He can speed rush, but he doesn't stay committed to it. And I think that will change the NFL. Coaches will get on him about that. Now, Carla also has great effort and instincts. He's just a relentless guy. And he just gets it, man, like all around. He has an array of pass rush moves, which may be the best thing about his game at this point. I think Karlaftis will be a borderline elite run defender once he develops. I think day one in the NFL, Karlaftis will be a contributor. Honestly, people need to start giving this man the credit he deserves. Now, this one's going to get me killed. My number 3 edge rusher is David Ajavo. I know I'm going to catch hell for this choice, but when it comes to Ajavo, I can't help but to think of his future. He has as high of a ceiling as any other player in this draft. And this is a guy who hasn't played very much football in his life. But here's the interesting thing. I actually like Ajavo's instincts. Like, he's much further along than he should be. Athletically, he's just special. I mean, there's no other way of saying it. He's going to have to build up his body some and add strength. But I still like his hand play, his rip moves, an awesome punch. You know, when he uses his punch properly, it's pretty much game over for offensive linemen. Tackles regularly overset against Ajavo, and even though he doesn't have the most, advanced pass rush moves of the bunch, he does show some counters on tape. He needs more playing time than anything. He needs a concrete role and just tons of snaps. But this guy could be an amazing player in a couple years. Awesome bend, flexibility. His balance is next level. This guy has some great lateral movement and length that will help him in the run game. He needs a lot of work, and some of these other guys might have better numbers year one, but I just think Ajavo could develop into a top 10 pass rusher in the NFL if everything breaks right for him. Yes, I am that high on Ajavo. Now, my number 2 edge rusher is Kvon Thibodeaux. This guy is a monster, and there's no other way of putting it. Now, I am praying he falls to my Giants at 5. People have been saying he's falling on the draft. That's the most foolish thing I've heard in a hot minute. Anyone who passes on Thibodeaux will regret it. I promise you. This is a long, powerful, explosive prospect. He has supreme power for his size. His initial punch is a stunner. His upper half strength is not normal. Don't line up a tight end on this guy. It will end badly. People have questioned his motor. I don't get it. I see a guy who flies to the ball, who has great motor. Kvon's get off on the line is impressive. He has a scary burst. He will force tackles to protect the outside. Kvon doesn't have great bend, but it's pretty damn good. And his balance is from another world. He can grease a corner on speed rushes, and he has a shoulder lean that will torture tackles. His closing speed is as good as any other in this draft, straight up. And Kvon has a solid bull rush to work with. Now, he's very raw, just like Ajavo. He needs repetition. I have faith he'll build on his pass rushing bag. I want to see him use his length and power to develop more effective inside counters. I think time and coaching will do this guy wonders. And once he gets more of a feel for the game, it's going to be a wrap. I mean, Kvon and Ajavo are the 2 high ceiling guys in this draft. The expression goes, no risk it, no biscuit. So I'm taking a shot on his upside 10 out of 10 times. And if Kvon reaches his ceiling, he's going to make the naysayers look foolish. And I think he's going to. Now, my number 1 edge rusher is obviously Aiden Hutchinson. Now, he may not have the ceiling of some of these other guys, but sometimes the now matters as much as later. And Hutchinson is an NFL-ready pass rusher. By all reports, this is a peer leader. He is a weightlifting, weight room legend. There may not be another edge rusher who works harder in the last few drafts. This guy just takes relentlessness to a whole new level. His pass rush moves are way beyond where a player his age should be. He has some of the smoothest counters you will ever see from a college prospect. Everything he does works off each other. Just great feet, hand play. His burst carries through his first few steps through contact. Inside, outside, it doesn't matter. His powered hand fighting is gonna win. There is things to work on snaps where the offensive lineman got a nice initial block. He can wait a bit too long to initiate a counter, so timing will need to improve. His burst is good in carries, but it's not insane. It's just very good. That's not the worst thing, because he's so skilled fundamentally that he is going to get to his spots. I think Aiden Hutchinson is going to have a Nick Bosa-esque type of rookie season. And once this guy gets NFL coaching and the workout regimen that comes with that, he could be scary good and really early in his career on top of that. Maybe he doesn't have the ceiling of Kvon Thibodeaux or a David Ajavo, but Hutchinson already has and utilizes certain moves and traits that these other guys haven't developed yet. So that's my list. Let me know what you think. Who would you change? Do you think I'm putting too much importance on players' ceilings here? I've steered away from high ceiling guys in the past, and it always comes back to bite me. Maybe this is an overcorrection, but I guess we'll see. As always, thank you guys for the support. This past month has been awesome. I've loved the conversations I've been able to have in the comments. If you're new, subscribe. I got a bunch more draft stuff lined up. Please leave me a like. That's the best way to support the channel and help me continue to grow. But thank you guys. You're awesome. You rock. Peace.